Hi folks, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something a bit different and unique for me. I'm going to be taking you through a historical examination of a specific album, but also discussing a period of change in the history of progressive rock, as opposed to one of my standard unboxings and a review of a contemporary release. It is amazing and unbelievable to me that the GTR album was released 40 years ago. In fact, as I record this on the afternoon of April 23rd, 2026, tomorrow, April 24th of 1986, was the actual release date. And those of you of my generation, try wrapping your head around the fact that that was 4 decades ago. I vividly remember walking into the record store, seeing this album cover and knowing that I had to have it, being a big fan of Steve Howe and his work with Yes in Asia. GTR, of course, was Steve Howe's first band project following his departure from Asia around 1984-85, and it was also Steve Hackett's first band project after his departure from Genesis, I think in 1977 or 78, following the Wind and Wuthering tour and album, and I believe Steve had stayed around a little while for the mixing of what would become their fantastic live album, Seconds Out. But by that time, the progressive rock winds were shifting a little bit in the mid-1980s. It resulted in the formation of Asia, of course, from the ashes of Yes, King Crimson, ELP, and the Buggles. We saw the 1983 self-titled Genesis album, which was a far cry from the music that Steve Hackett was involved in back in the 70s. And we were also introduced to the new Yes with 90125 without Steve Howe. So it was time for the two Steves to take a different, more accessible approach to their music. And of course, when it came to choosing a band name, GTR is obviously short for guitar, but those people who are studio musicians would also know that on mixing board panels, any channels dedicated to guitar would just be marked with masking tape as GTR. So the name GTR had been in the zeitgeist for some time. After a short flirtation with the possibility of signing with Geoff, GTR, Hackett and Howe signed with Arista. And shortly after that, Geoff Downes was brought in following his production duties on Asia's Astra album in 1985. And the GTR album would also include one of Downes' self-penned songs, The Hunter. And The Hunter would also actually go on to be the band's second single released from the album. One of the band's features with keyboard master Downes at the helm included Howe and Hackett employing guitar synthesizers, permitting them to experiment with a wide variety of different sounds on the album. Rounding out the band would be Max Bacon, lead singer, formerly of Nightwing and Bronze, a couple of bands from the UK. Bassist Phil Spalding had been a studio musician for some time, and he later collaborated with Mike Oldfield. And drummer Jonathan Mover had previously been with the band Marillion. And after its release on April 24th, 1986, the GTR album hit number 11 on the Billboard album charts. When the Heart Ruled the Mind went on the Hot 100, got up to number 14, I believe. And at that point, the band went out on tour and went through the US, Canada, and Europe. But of course, the album itself wouldn't have been enough material to fill out an entire show. Howe and Hackett both performed extended solo segments on the shows, and the band also added Yes's Roundabout and I Know What I Like from the Genesis back catalog to fill out the performance. And the band also performed a new song live called Prize Fighters that would later go on to be included by Steve Hackett in one of his solo albums called, I believe, Feedback 86. And due to the difficulties involved in replicating some of the guitar synthesizer material featured on the album, the band augmented their live lineup with a keyboard player, Matt Clifford. Clifford would go on to work extensively over the years with none other than Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. Following the GTR tour, Howe, Spalding, and Bacon convened at Steve's home studio in Devon in the UK to start work on new material for a second album. But with doubts about the viability of the project going forward, Steve Hackett took his leave from the band. Living in America at the time, drummer Jonathan Mover was also not able to commit full-time, so the trio of Howe, Spalding, and Bacon proceeded to work on demos with the use of a drum machine. And with an eye towards adding a more creative spark to the band, and also at the suggestion of the band's management, American multi-instrumentalist Robert Berry was brought in, and the band went on to record more demos. They were unsure at the time whether they would go forward under the name GTR, so at one point Howe actually put forward the suggestion of the name Nero and the Trend. Sadly, the second album never came to fruition and the group disbanded. Howe's next major project, of course, would be reuniting with his former Yes colleagues John Anderson, Bill Bruford, and Rick Wakeman in Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe. And the other members of GTR went on to solo and studio work. Downes moved on to his iconic solo debut album, The Light Program. And of special note, Robert Berry would go on to form Three with Keith Emerson and Carl Palmer for their 3 to the Power of 3 album in 1988. And for those of you interested, there are a number of songs that resulted from those aborted GTR/Nero and the Trend sessions. They are No One Else to Blame, The Love We Share, Running the Human Race, Young Hearts, Hungry Warrior, Listen to the People, The World is Big Enough, Hot Touch, Runaway, Forever, and Tell the Story. Many of these can be found spread across a number of different releases, from Steve Howe's Anthology 2, Robert Berry's Pilgrimage to a Point, and Max Bacon's The Higher You Climb. I'll include links in my video description for anyone interested. So that's the history of GTR, folks. An unbelievable 4 decades have passed. I don't know where the time goes sometime. Thanks for checking out my video. I really do appreciate the support. Please do consider subscribing, liking, hitting the notification bell, drop a comment down below. Any recollections on GTR, that period of the history of progressive rock, I'd love to read them. And isn't it just amazing how much time has gone by? Do check out the video description below for some links regarding a lot of the music discussed in this video. And as always, thank you so much for the support. It's so much appreciated.